Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. Glad you're here tonight. If you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. Welcome. And we want to always advise everybody that's new to the channel. If you know anything about any of the cases that we are discussing, we do not include names of other suspects or not even initials. We just don't want to go into that in those areas, and we appreciate everybody cooperating with us. Also, be very respectful of families, mods, and each other. Of course, you can debate, and as we go through the presentation tonight, if you have any questions, put them in there. We're going to be looking at how CSI and how my career had an impact on cases I work, but also since I've retired and now I'm on YouTube and becoming and trying to share my experience with web sleuths so that you'll be able to go out there and look at some of these crime scene images or case files, cold cases, and analyze them and try to reach logical conclusions of what a crime scene tells you and the story within that crime scene. Because by looking at the evidence in a logical manner and seeing each step of how you would analyze it and what would the criminal, what acts did he take, what measures, movement through a crime scene, was there staging, posing, and if you'll remember back, for some of you that's been with me for a while, that the work I do and have done with Chris on the mob crew, the Murdoch case, did a lot of work product for that case and shared it with Chris. And we went out there and presented it, and even pre-court. And then it turned that from looking at some of the evidence that was out there pre-trial and during the trial, I was able to recreate and reconstruct many parts of that crime scene that turned out to be very, very parallel with what the other expert that's working on the case brought to the courtroom and testified to. And that's some of the things we're going to be looking at. There's a lot of relationship through the Murdoch case and to Richard Allen, the Delphi case, and another case that I will be using as a foundation as we move forward over the last couple of months, if not longer. I've been working on a case out of Indiana, the Carrie Owsley case, and we're going to be looking at it for a lot of different reasons. There's a narrative that's out there, and there's questions about that case. There's already been some other expert opinion about it. And we're going to look at it, and I'm going to show you the exhibits I created specifically for that case. It won't be tonight. We're just setting up the series tonight. But there was a lot of work product went into that, a lot of hours. Even tonight, Mrs. Steve was walking through the living room, and I had furniture overturned in the living room that I had placed as I work on these cases. And she has no idea when she walks through what she's about to see or question, because she said, "What did I miss?" Because I have chairs and things scattered across the floor that's overturned, and it looks like there's been some type of altercation within the living room. And she said, "What did I miss?" And but that's part of it, that there's always questions, and we go out and we try to set up and reconstruct stuff and try to explain it using the materials that's within a crime scene. As y'all seen my outdoor crime scene, where I went out in Luminol, or if you see some of the stuff I've done in other shows, as far as trying to recreate what type of transfer stains can occur from uh, tracking blood trails. But that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. And so, anyway, we will get started on this. And so, if you have any questions about this, just absolutely throw them in there. But regardless, if you're looking at a cold case or something that's just within the court systems, that's new, and as it's presented and certain types of evidence are presented, that we have to look at that evidence. And when families approach me, such as with if it's a case that was in the court system, such as when Chris and I started working on the Murdoch case of recreating certain things that was out there that we could recreate, and I was able to go out and do some a lot of different things, as we'll discuss here in a few minutes. But when you're approached by such as when Cheryl Owsley family contacted me regarding Kerry, who is her brother, and we'll be looking at it, like I said, a lot more. But when they contact you, they have a understanding of the case. They spent years looking at that case, trying to keep it at the forefront, trying to expose their story and trying to get interest in it when they believe that there is injustice. And it's when they approach me and they give me the case files, such as they have some evidence, and there is a lot of evidence specifically regarding that case that they've been able to present to me: photography, police reports, witness statements. And so they had a very interesting case file, and I was able to do a lot of work on it. And you'll be seeing that in the coming days. But and it's this type of investigative interest and drive that can lead to revelations about what the crime scene tells you. And you have to go in there and look at each photograph. And I'm talking about each photograph and just break it apart. And some of the cases, we don't have that right now. We do. Recently, there were some released on the Richard Allen, where Libby and Abby crime scene images. There was a couple of three images from the crime scene itself that were released. And of course, I looked at those and analyzed it almost pixel by pixel, and have a better understanding of certain narratives that could have occurred at that crime scene. Of course, we can't share those images, and I'll never share images of any of the victims, because at the end of the day, we do not want we want justice for the victims, and we don't want narrative to override. And when the images are released through court and whatever's blurred out or presented, because we have those occur occasionally, whereas certain images from crime scenes, Stephen Smith case, same thing, had certain blurred images released on it. On Delphi, we have some. And of course, I have some regarding the Owsley case. Won't be sharing them. I will be sharing certain details that for the recreation that drove me down certain avenues, I'll share with you. But we'll just have to see where it goes. And as we present the some of the evidence on these cold cases and for these families, I want you to understand that we're out here for one purpose. We want justice at the end of the day, regardless of any case. And I know that the web sleuths, they're driven by the same passion, and that's what they want. But some of the things, like I said, whenever you're looking at crime scene stuff and you have different types of evidence, you'll have that physical evidence, fingerprints, footprints, tire tracks, tool marks. And we have that in a lot of cases for Richard Allen. We have everything that you could classify, such as that unspent round that may have some tool marks on it. And there's even talk about other types of evidence, partial fingerprints, some trace evidence has been referenced in some of the search warrants. And and so when you look at this diagram here, that you'll see that there's different types: the physical, the trace, the biological evidence. Can it be DNA, and from different types of body fluids? And we have those in almost every case that you'll have um, a mixture of these. Not every case has fingerprints. Not every case has DNA. Not every case has fibers, paint chips, and things. But generally, the stronger the case is, the more you're going to have of each type of it. And then we have, like I said, everything has to be analyzed and approached in a logical manner to build that case. And that's what we're going to be trying to do. And I'll show you some other things as we move forward. But with the Murdoch case, we had a police diagram, not to scale, of course, and they had certain legends in it, and that told you where shell casings were um, uh, certain rooms, such as the storage room, where the initial contact was made with one of the victims, and we had a blood trail starting. We had trajectories from a shotgun blast, a couple of trajectories, and then we had to go out, and there was another trail of spent casings. And through those spent casings and everything, like I said, I did a lot of work on that case for with Chris, and as I rebuilt the blood trails to the shell casings, trying to establish what possibly could have went on in those moments when those two victims lost their lives. And it would be the same regardless of the case. I'll do the same with on the Owsley case, and as we become more familiar with the evidence within the Libby and Abby's case, I'll be able to go in there, and we'll probably be doing some reconstructions as we become aware of more evidence. But on the Murdoch case, we had limited photos. I mean, we had um, the bird cage that was outside in a barn storage area. You had the hole in the glass showing the trajectory of a shotgun blast, a defect in a bird cage, blood spatter. You had a blood trail, and each of these items. And then we had where there was a second victim. Uh, Mrs. Murdoch was found, and I was able to go through by placement of the shell casings and using a type of firearm that was consistent with what was used in that case, and rebuild what more than likely occurred. And we saw through their 3D imaging and experts bringing their new technologies to the case, that it was pretty consistent. And so I was very glad that my story that was built from the old school of what I was taught and how we learned it back in the 80s and the early 90s. And now that the new technologies are there, everything, is supportive. If the new technologies tells you that the old technology, if you can't combine the two and you have two different stories, something's wrong with one of them, because there's no difference. Everything is logical. Uh, just because you're using something new or something old does not change cannot change what a bullet can in physics. It doesn't change blood patterns and the understanding of blood spatter analysis. Regardless of how you capture that information and regardless of how you analyze it and you move forward and you come up with that story from that crime scene, doesn't matter what technology you use, old school. And that's one of the important things I really want us to realize. And I'm going to approach it from that, because as web sleuths, we don't have the modern technologies. We don't have all the technologies and equipment that these crime labs have. We can only approach it from the old school of how it would have been done many, many years ago. And it's with that understanding, and that's the way I'm going to present it, so that everybody's on equal footing, that you or anyone can go out there and logically take a piece of furniture and through recreation and looking at it and see what makes sense and what doesn't. And if it makes sense and it's logical and can be repeated and recreated time and time again, and it's consistent with the evidence, then more than likely that's what happened at that crime scene. And this is just another photo of some of the blood trails that was at the Murdoch case, and some of the slides that I created way back for Chris's show. And if any of you wish to go and you're new to the channel, you hadn't seen it, you can go to the Mob Cruise, and I have several videos there that you can go back on the Murdoch case. And also my channel, we have some stuff on it also regarding this case. But this is a new case that we'll be looking at as we move forward. And it's a case from 2013, what happened to Carrie Owsley. And the ruling and the narrative that was provided to by law enforcement to the family, and they fought an uphill battle. And what does it mean? There's other expert that originally came into the case that said it didn't make sense. And so I looked at that, and I agree with him that there are certain things that don't make sense. But I don't agree with every aspect of the expert's opinion either. There's a lot of things that go on, and experts will have differing opinions about certain things within a case. And which one is right? It's through building and recreating, reconstruction that will lead you down which path and what does that story from that crime scene mean. And, you know, one of the most high profile cases that's out there right now, of course, is the Delphi case. And there's a lot of information out there of what happened within that crime scene with between Libby Abbey, and if Richard Allen is the responsible party, what part did he play, what was going on in there. And we'll just have to see as we move forward with that court trial. And the same thing with Kohlberger, that if he's the one responsible for the Idaho homicides, then we have to look at that and see if that storyline and the story that the CSI built from the crime scene is consistent with the evidence and is consistent with Kohlberger being the responsible party. And we'll have the same thing as we move forward. And like I said, I have a lot of great exhibits, how I created those exhibits that will show you the time spent on these cases. And it's just not an hour or two. We, you know, I go out and I rebuild pieces of furniture. I go out and buy things that are within that crime scene that are damaged by some type of force, be it such a thing as a trajectory of a bullet, contact. I do ballistic gelatin and try to recreate a crime scene as accurately as I can with you can go and repeat it, recreate it time and time again, and it'll give you something consistent with what you see within the crime scene. Then you know you're on the right trail and the right track. But now, with that being said, we'll go ahead and move forward. If we got any questions or anything, or any comments?
Yep.
All right.
All right. Let's see here. We're going to start with Mary.
Mm-hmm.
What was the hardest case you had to help solve with the evidence you had?
There's a cold case out there right now that there's an individual that I worked on. And of course, their charges haven't been brought yet. Do I believe I know exactly who is responsible for the case? Absolutely. Will it ever go to court? I don't know. And it's a well-known case in Georgia. And yeah, it's that's probably the most haunting one, wouldn't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Because Mrs. Steve and I, we knew the family. We sat down with them for many occasions, or the parents of one of the victims. And of course, when I retired, it was turned over to the next investigative team. And it's still an open cold case. And it will always bother me until there's something settled with that case. Of course, I can't share the details of it, but that's probably the one that most haunts me.
All righty. And Southern Gal True Crime. Can families of victims take possession of cold case evidence, or are they just allowed to look at it?
You know, time and time again, law enforcement will say that it's not cold. It's an active case. We're continuously evaluating new tips that come in. And we have to appreciate that, because as long as it's an open case, they don't have to share, won't share. And for the fact that law enforcement has a history of wanting to keep it close to the chest. But it aggravates me also that we'll have these cases that are 30, 40 years old plus, and law enforcement will carry that information to the grave of not being able to go out there and reach out to the public and sharing more information, saying, you know, because we're well into it by the time you get that old, and there's cases out there with it. And of course, with new technologies and DNA, um, certain older cold cases are being analyzed, and some of these serial offenders that operated way back in the 60s and 70s are being identified, and cases are being closed. But if that DNA doesn't exist, what is the answer for law enforcement? It always aggravates me that they won't share more information, especially on those cases where there's not a chance of DNA in any role in it. But there's nothing that requires law enforcement to share anything on an open law enforcement case.
Okay. And Miss Mary, question: based on the evidence or lack thereof, do you have any thoughts you can share on Summer Wells, such a heartbreaking case? Thank you.
I haven't worked. I've watched some videos on Summer Wells, and you're absolutely correct. It is a tragedy, and there is so much unknown about that case. And you would think in the middle of the day of when the report came in, and the searches and the evidence that's out there, and the accusations of who is involved in that case, and but I know very little about. I've never went in and done a complete dive into that case. I may at some point. I'm there's none of the family. A lot of times, most of the stuff I do is when families contact me. I will go in and look at certain cases, and but I just haven't went into the Summer Wells case, and it may be one that I do take on in the next year or so.
All right. And from hello. And from Bama, the Murdoch case is a case that keeps giving. Any thoughts on Becky Hill and Book?
Yes, she was the clerk of the court thing, but yes, sad that what may occur as we move forward with that and a new trial is going to be something that and everybody that's involved in these cases, a lot of times it just drives you crazy when you see someone that does something that they should have known better, and shouldn't have been involved and shouldn't have done for that fame. And so we'll see where it goes with this. But the Murdoch case, it's a tragedy of what occurred to those innocent family members, and it's a tragedy that continues with what that will come up in the courts as we move forward. But the one thing that we have to say is that it did bring focus, that this Murdoch case did bring focus onto the Stevens case, and got it moving forward. So that's one of the bright spots of what happened, that we had one case that fed into another. And that was due to a lot of the pressures by social media and by the creators out there that were focused on that. And so hats off to those that went out there and kept the pressures on and got the Webb Sleuth's involved in that case and brought it up to the forefront, which is now, grand jury, and it's moving forward with new evidence and suspects. And so I'm looking forward to where does that go.
And blue light for Miss Gail.
Thank you. Gifted one True Crime Web membership. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much. And Miss Robin. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Steve, everyone. May I have a question? Mr. Steve, what would your thoughts on moving RA to another area? Good or bad idea?
Where they moved him and housed him into the same facility of where an alternate suspect is currently housed, I think is probably, personally, I think is absolutely unbelievable, and I'd fought it with tooth and nail. The fact that now we have them in the same facility, and while they may not be housed in the same block, what connections may have existed prior to, and what connections will exist after that, because there's always communications within facilities, and I just, if we kept them separate and in separate facilities, and we have the abilities of when letters are written and how they supervise communications and things is one thing. But when you're in the same jail facility and you're housed with an alternate suspect that the defense can bring up, I can't believe that the defense isn't raising Cain about it. And they may be. I absolutely on their side that I don't think that he should be housed in the same facility as an alternate suspect.
All right. And from Southern Gal, True Crime. At True Crime Web, in the Morgan Nick case, blood and hair was collected from BJL's truck years later. How likely or unlikely is it that viable DNA could be found?
Well, there's new technologies always that are advancing, and it's getting better and better. And at some point, what will the technologies be? But on this case, Southern Guy, I was going to write you an email, and let's try to get together, and we'll see what's going on for Tuesday. And that's our first. We'll try to get together on Tuesday if that's good. But I'll send you an email out the next day or by tomorrow and see if we can't get set up for Tuesday.
Okay. And Miss Gail at True Crime Web, has there been any progress on the Flora case? Do you think the arsons in that area indicate a serial offender?
I'm big into mathematics and probable causes and things of that nature.
Yes, he is.
And when the numbers say that there's something odd in the wood pile, then there's something odd in the wood pile. I know that the stats there and the individuals that's been involved and lives that have been lost is higher than what should be. And what does that mean? Because all you have to have is one serial arsonist that will just absolutely put the numbers whereas they can be identified. And fortunate enough in my career on a stakeout that we got a serial arsonist one time, and due to his this is pre 911, but and I'll tell that story one of these days. But through his laziness and lack of having a quarter and having to call 911, or not 911, but calling dispatch by a collect call, got him captured. But when you have these arsonists and things and deaths resulting from those, the investigations and is critical. But from my understanding and watching other creators talk about that, and they say those numbers are up. I haven't personally done and the numbers on the number of arsons, but from watching to them and having no reason to disbelieve them, they say that the numbers are way off the charts. And if that's the case, then of course it most certainly should be investigated to the full extent.
Okay. And
Southern Gal True Crime, $2 super stick. Thank you, appreciate that.
and I got the blue light on time tonight.
You got the blue light, okay?
Got it on time. All right. And from Molly at True Crime Web. But which defense would raise Cain, the old ones or the new ones? Weird the order came from the AG, in my opinion.
Yes, and I don't know if there was a choice of what facilities to move and who decided it was a great idea. Now, that's just my opinion. There may be some reason they wanted that. I don't know. But just looking at it from my standpoint, I think it's silly. Like I said, you know, what information and why would you do that? I have no idea. But of course, the only ones that can raise Cain would be the ones that are representing him currently. If that changes as the court system says this is what's going to happen, that's possible. But like I said, I just don't think it's any time that you get two people that possibly have some connection, and or even bring up the possibility of shared information in the future. I just don't think it's a great idea. But that's just my own opinion of it. And like I said, there may be some attorneys out there that think that this is great. I don't know. I haven't watched any of them, and I have no idea. But if any of y'all see anything that people say that this is one of the greatest ideas that the state of Indiana ever had, send me that link, because I'd be interested in trying to figure out and look at that perspective. Because from my perspective, it's not a good idea. But I can be changed. You know, you give me something logical and explain why it's a good idea. Yeah, change my mind.
All right, we got a couple blue lights coming.
Excellent.
We have
What the Beck.
a new member.
Thank you. Appreciate your support. What the Beck.
I love that. All right, and let me get that out.
You need to start saying that when you walk through the house when you see overturned furniture.
Yeah, no kidding. And then Peyton Place donated to the foundation tonight. Thank you so very much.
Appreciate it. Appreciate that. That's on the website, truecrimeweb.com.
Yep. And
Thank
it
you.
is a secure link.
Yep.
So you will get a receipt as soon as you donate. So thank you very much. That keeps him on the road.
Yes,
right?
yes. And that's the foundation. That's a nonprofit, guys. And we appreciate anyone and everyone through that support. Thank y'all.
All right. And I'm hitting the blue light and I don't need to anymore. All right. And Miss Mary, as the Crystal Rogers case in Kentucky heats up, do any thoughts if you are aware of the case?
Oh, I'm not, man, there's so many cases out there, but no, I'm not. The name is familiar, but I can't place which one that is. But thank you for getting it. I'll put it on my notes to look at. And I know that
name does sound
it is, but you know, I was on the road for the last,
who knows?
About 6, I was on the road last week for 5 or 6 days and drove about 2,500 miles. So I was exhausted, and I'm finally I'm getting caught up and finally getting back my mental state in the right order.
Oh, that's funny. All right, let's look.
She doesn't think so. Mrs. Steve doesn't think so.
Like I said, that's funny. All right. I see nothing else.
All righty, guys. But anyway, like I said, I wanted to lay the groundwork for as we move forward, because I know a lot of y'all really like the CSI part of it. And I'll show you some of the exhibits I've built, how they were built, why they were built, to explain and to demonstrate, because as we move forward and I meet with other experts and professionals, and having the ability to demonstrate that not only just trying to explain to it verbally, but when you can show someone the physical path and you create those walls and show those trajectories, and you have dowel rods, and you have and you create that demonstration of ballistic gelatin and ribs and walls and the defects that are caused by that wound channel and by that bullet traveling through it. And you see it all on video, and you have the ability to look at it from photograph to photograph. It means a lot, and you can handle that exhibit and see how it was created and see the results of what did that bullet look like when it went through all those obstacles, and does a bullet even have enough energy to create the not only the wound channel but all the damage downrange after penetrating a victim. And some of that it will be looked at in great detail, especially with the Carrie Owsley case, for the fact that there's a narrative there that doesn't make sense, and there's only one way certain things could occur, and that's what we're going to be looking at as we move forward. And it's a great case to lay that foundation to share with you of how I approach things and how I analyze it, and what when something makes sense and when something doesn't make sense, and what does that narrative mean. But anyway, we want to thank everyone for being here, and I'll be getting back with y'all soon. Tuesday night, I'm going to try to get with Southern Gal, and we're going to do her case. And if that's on her schedule, if we can get it scheduled up, that's what we're going to be trying to do for next week. And I want to thank everyone. Now, tomorrow night for all our members at 7 o'clock, I'll have a members only for everybody. And so for all our members, I'll see you tomorrow night at 7. And thank you guys for your support. Thank the mods for your work, because without y'all, we couldn't move forward and do what we do on our code cases and the CSI work, because the foundation, of course, handles certain aspects of the travels, the monies through the memberships, and the monies generated through the YouTube part of it help us do the CSI part of it too.
Oh, wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Got a blue light coming in here.
Sensei Wackadoodle. Enjoying True Crime Web CSI. Watching tonight. Sensei Wackadoodle, me. Sensei Wackanoodle, my son. And Sensei Wackapoodle, my dog.
Oh my God.
Doodle, Noodle, and Poodle.
That is hysterical.
Y'all, you got the double alts and triple alts in here. Doodle, Noodle, and Poodle. Love it. That's so funny. But thank you for your support.
That is hysterical.
Look at the dog.
I know it. I know it. That is hysterical.
All righty, guys. Well, we appreciate it. We'll see y'all soon, and y'all
Love
stay
y'all.
safe out there.